the manager in the IT unit, and we're going to talk about credit certification for ETA. Great, everybody. What we're going to go over today is how to populate the files for the credit verification for eligibility for ETA award. So, what we're with right now, what the school credit verification is, it's a process that's intended to determine the eligibility for the student. And they're going to determine this information is whether or not the student is enrolled in your school, whether it is a freshman or a returning student or a transfer student. We provide the applicant's credit history, and what you do is report all the credit information by academic year, terms, when credits were earned. This is the type of information that we will be looking for on these files. We'll evaluate them to determine that the student is eligible for the ETA award. So we have in this process, the outgoing file, which is the HE 8848 file, the student credit verification request file. This is going to contain the list of students who applied for ETA for your school, have selected your school on their application, and this is a list of students that we will be looking for to get information from. And further on in this presentation, we'll go into the details of each of the files. We'll send back are in two different formats. It's the same information. One is in a flat file format, the HE 8849, or in a CSV file, a spreadsheet, HE 8865. When we receive information, we will evaluate, and then we post back reports, which will tell you how that data processed. Where we listed on the reporting the HE 9091, the 9095, and the 9093, and we'll get into more details further in the presentation. So the first initiates this whole process is the HE 8848, which is the school student credit verification request file. This file is going to contain all your students that need their credits verified for the ETA eligibility. We use files daily at 7 o'clock, and what this file will be is a cumulative file. It's going to list all the files, all the students that we are looking for verification. In this process, on this file, if you were to send back the credits and we evaluated them and the process and posted to our system, next day's file, those students will drop off. So each day, it's a cumulative file with anybody who is outstanding for the credit verification process. You will be filed Monday through Friday. So the next talking about was the response files. The response files are the information you are going to send us back on the students to verify their credit information. This process will run daily, Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock. So all the files that we receive up to 3 o'clock will be processed in that day. And the reports that come out will be based on that processing time. Again, there's the 8849, and that's a flat file format. 8865 is the spreadsheet format. Now, email that you received for this webinar, we had attached all the documentation. You will see the file layouts. You can also find the file layouts out on HES's website. So when posting the information on the returning response files, there's like 3 types of students that have a different scenario that we'll go over how to populate what fields on the files. This from freshmen, which is a new student to your school has never attended college, has never matriculated in a college. They may have taken college credits in high school, but that is not considered that you have been attended college. The returning non-transfer student, who's a student who has been previously attended only your school, and then we'll go into a scenario on transfer students, who's a student who's currently enrolled in your school and has previously attended college. what's here, and also we have it in our helpful hints document that was sent along with the file layouts, are all the required fields that need to be entered into the different files. Which is the field numbers for the 8849, which is the flat file format, and then the 8865, which is the CSV spreadsheet format. The DEN is exactly the same on both files. You see the fields are off by one number, and that's because the 8865 spreadsheet needs to have a record type column so we can determine the different type of records. But it's exactly the same. As we proceed through this the numbers that I'm referring to in the examples as we move forward are going to be the numbers associated with the 8849. But the student bound indicator is a student bound indicator on both files, so just in a different position. Can we go, sorry. Let's go over the fields that are required. Again, like I was saying with the record type within the spreadsheet. You need to send back the student's SSN and birth, the code, your federal school code and campus code, the academic year, and this is the application year that the applicant is applying for. So this upcoming academic year, it would be 2018. Student indicator, if the student attends your school, that would be a Y. If it doesn't, the student does not attend your school, then it's an N. Then we have 5-year program field with a student enrolled in an approved 5-year program. The opportunity program, if they're enrolled in an opportunity program, student, let's start with transfer student. Those fields I just mentioned before, they're required, so they need to be a yes or a no. From the past, some schools will just leave spaces for 5-year program. If they're not in an enrolled approved program, you need to populate them with a no because they're required yes or no fields. Whether transfer student, transfer info pending, incomplete term info pending, these are fields that, and we'll go into more detail when we get into example on whether or not you don't have the information yet and you want it as pending until you get that information, and then it'll get posted to our system. The TAP college code term, which is the application term code that student is applying for. 2 other required fields that definitely need to be there. So one I'm going to start with is an example for the first term freshman. Entering information for a first term freshman. In this example, you'll see how to calculate the required fields on there. Again, it was found. The example says that the student is not in a 5-year program and opportunity and transfer student. These other fields here, transfer credits accepted, transfer info pending, and incomplete. There's no credit information that you're going to put in there, and you know that they're first-term freshmen, so we have no pending information. Make sure you populate your college code and your app term, and then we have this term slot data. The slot data is data that you will populate for your returning students or transfer students. With a first-term freshman, we have no credits because they have yet to be matriculated and earn credits in college. Our system will take this information, will come as eligible because they're a first-term freshman and we don't have any credits that we need to wait for eligibility. When you credits, and so the next scenarios that we're going to come across are going to be students that are returning students or your transfer students. And at this time, we need to do all of their credits prior to the term that they're applying for ETA for. And when we report these credits, we need to report them by the academic and term that they were taken. With term slot data, and in the 8849 file format, they're fields 18 through 77. In the spreadsheet format, they're 19 through 78. To post all terms that the student had enrolled in college, either at your school or a previous one. Again, at colleges when they were matriculated in college, you should include terms where the students had attended and failed or courses taken, earned 0 credits. Doing future term data. For example, the application terms you're applying for right now would be the 2018 fall. If you happen to put in term slots a 2018 fall or 2018 spring, our process considers that as future term data, so that record will be bypassed and sent back to you on your subsequent 8848 request file. You need term data in sequential order. So starting with 2017 fall, then 2017 spring. If they are out of sequential order, again, our process is not sure how to evaluate the data. We will bypass that transaction, and it will be returned to you on the subsequent 8848 file. What you definitely know is the academic year. The academic year is going to be the HESC academic year. For example, the academic year for 2017 consists of the calendar year of summer 2017, fall 2017, winter 2018, and spring 2018. It's like this is academic year within your TAP processing. The next to go through is reporting your second term freshman. So this is your returning student. If you're a returning student and wanting to know, and they took AP courses in high school and had less than 30 credits in their freshman year, you are allowed to use these AP credits. You can add them to the first or second term of your freshman year. You can only use these credits at a one-time use. If the student happens to have 10 credits, they needed 3 credits to meet the 30 credit requirement. You use 3 credits from that 10. And then the rest of those AP credits could be utilized in the future when you're certifying for payment. So fields could be populated for a second term freshman. The student is found in the required fields. You have your college code and your term, and you don't have any pending information. And in here, you would put 17 and 15 credits. So this example here is of a freshman who started in spring of 2017, and for the academic year in term of 2018 fall, their second term. This sample of a returning non-transfer student with a complete summer term. So as a returning student, and you know that they need to finish this summer course to meet 30 credit requirement before going into the academic year of 2018 fall. So in the transaction, if you were to send them back, you cannot send them back yet would be one possibility. But if you sent that back and you had a Y in incomplete term info pending, that is stating that you have an incomplete credits, you're waiting for that information to get completed before you can post it. When the process sees that as a Y, we will pass that transaction and will be returned to you on a subsequent 8848 file. Okay. Example, with the returning student with an incomplete term pending, credits needed to qualify for ETA. So what this is that once you have found that you've completed the summer term, you will then reach that transaction with an N in the pending because you now have the information completed, and you populate your term slice with the the spring 2017 has the 10 credits. You've summer in 2018 has completed the other 5 credits, and therefore it has met the requirement for the ETA eligibility. In this, another non-transfer student who has multiple terms to report. What I show in this example is to make sure that the term slots are in sequential order. The other to note is the credit. The noted as 150. The credit field is a 3-digit field. That 15 credits is 150. If you in 12.5 credits is 125. It says utilizing this spreadsheet format. If you enter in 1.5, we are consider that as 150 1.5 credits. You need 150. You have to term slot 3 there, you'll see 3 credits, 0, 0, that's for 3 credits. The thing is, with the spreadsheet format, when the spreadsheet, the leading zeros get dropped. Don't worry about that. If you put in 3 0 within the spreadsheet format, our process will pad leading zeros when needed. And then with the padding of the leading zeros in the spreadsheet format is for your SSN. That's in your field where you'll see the zero get dropped, and we will pad them. Do that in the spreadsheet format. Try to put some kind of formula within your cells to the leading zeros, because when that comes back as a CSV format, it just has all kinds of little field, and it's not just the SSN. Is the transfer student. Now, transfer students, the school need to report the academic year and term when the transfer credits were earned. You need to post all the credits that the student has been matriculated in college. This is a manual process for some schools. For actions where the transfer term credit information is still being determined, you set the transfer info pending field, which is field number 16 on the flat file format, to a Y. You can calculate your transfer credits accepted in field 13. That's more of a placeholder for you to know when you need to send this transaction. Our process will not take values in that field and populate them anywhere. So at this time, when we see a transaction for a transfer student who has populated a value greater than 0 in the transfer credits accepted, our process assumes that the school is still waiting for information in order to break those credits out and post them under the term slots. So what will happen is we will bypass that transaction and send it back to you. While all the transfer credits and you're able to populate it within the term slots, we need them to populate it in sequential order under fields under the slot fields. And info pending would be a no. We need to make sure the transfer credit accepted field is 0. So here, transfer student. This here is an example of if you're waiting for those 30 credits to determine where did they take them and when. So here right now in this example, you'll see that the transfer credit accepted field is 30. Transfer pending is a Y. You also transfer student is a Y. And right now they have in here the year school for fall and spring of 2017, and they have the 15 credits. But you know, prior to 2017, they attended a previous college. So this action here, that's how that would get evaluated, would be like we are assuming that the school is awaiting more information in order to complete this transaction. We will not post the information and we'll be waiting for a subsequent response. In that next subsequent response file, how it would populate and reflect, you would have your transfer credits, this is accepted, the transfer info pending would be an N. And as you can see here, the academic year for fall and spring for 16 are now posted. Again, they're posted in sequential order. That when you submit a transaction and you say, well, I submitted that information, and then now there's receipt back on your subsequent refile. Some of the things that you could look to determine why is anytime the transfer credit information or complete term credit is pending, if that field is a Y, we just send that back to you. Again, I was saying with the transfer information is sent in as a lump sum, and when you hear saying that we sent it in as a lump sum, that means you have a value greater than 0 in your transfer credits accepted for transaction designated as a transfer student. Again, those credits need to be broken out into the term slots under the academic year and term that that student had taken those credits. The student is found at your school, but identified as a transfer student, and there's no credit information. We send that back because if a transfer student came in, there needs to be academic years and terms in which they have taken previous credits. You will require data elements, and any of those required fields that on a previous, in the beginning of our presentation went through, if any of those are missing. One that is commonly missed is your college code and term at the end of the transaction. Feel invalid. If they're missing information or if they're not in sequential order, those would be some of the reasons why those transactions may be returned to you. We went through this whole process. We developed reports, and these definitely are things that would be very helpful when evaluating the transactions that you send to. We have created reports that will to detail results of the verification response that you have sent in, as well as trying to help you determine what fields are error. Reports will be based on whether you do the flat file, the 8849 format, or the CSV file, the 8865 format. Either one coming in will return this back. This is 9091. This can be found out under HES Web Reports, the Just Reports tab. You will see a sidebar tab that's set for the ETA Enhanced Tuition Award. In the sidebar tab, you will have access to the AG 9091. And what the AG 9091 is just a summary of the statistics for that day of the files that you sent in. If you happen to have loaded 2 files on that day, it's all summarized into this one report under that date. And looking out on this report is of all transactions, you're going to know which ones were evaluated as student not found. So transactions would be a successful process and posted to a system. The second one, transactions were flagged as first-term freshmen. Again, that's another scenario that was a successful transaction and posted to our system under first-term freshmen. Then I'll take you down to the third from the bottom. Transactions that failed credit requirements, and then transactions that passed credit requirements. Those, again, are transactions that were successful or our evaluation had posted to our system. So numbers in those categories will be the number of transactions that have been posted to our system. Now when we look at the lines in between, these are all the reasons that and categories that transactions may have been bypassed. And the transactions would be returned to you due to flagged as a transfer credit, and they have the lump sum. That's the scenario that I kept stressing, that for transfer credits need to be under the term slots. If their value in credits accepted for a transfer student, but that's not bypass is sent back to you because we are assuming you are awaiting information to post that. The next slide is transactions where transfer students were due to pending and complete information. If it falls under that category, it's most likely that you have a one in the info pending flags. The one, transactions for continuing non-transfer students would be returned due to incomplete information pending. Again, that is where a flag has been set to a Y that you have pending information. The number of transactions that would be returned to you due to missing or invalid required fields. And one is transactions were bypassed and returned to you due to something wrong with the term slots. Now, so this is a summary, and you're probably saying, well, how do I know which transaction falls into those bypass? There's ways that we can have that information. You can retrieve that information. There is out on HES Web, there will be this H9095, which is the Student Verification Response Result. It can be found under HES Web as well. When there, you need to enter in the SSN of the student. So if you happen to know that you have this one student that keeps coming back, you can look on there, and it is going to list out every time that you have sent in a transaction for that student, you will see it and the date and what the evaluation results were. And again, there is a way to determine the students, but we'll get into that Let's just, the ones were the 995. What's the example here is, you will see above the results, that is just a format dump of the data elements that you sent in on the incoming response file. And below is the results. So in here, this student actually, if you see the red arrow is, met the credit requirement. It has, it's noted above in the bias, but it's going to say that it met. It's going to give you some of the information. The next is an example of where something was bypassed. And in this example, it was bypassed because it says pending information. So what will happen is, if it's bypassed, it'll also put an X next to those one of those three categories. And if you go and look up into the details, you'll see where transfer info pending was set to a Y. So now, reporting structure that we have is the 1890-93, and this can be found on HES Web File Transfer, where you can download it as a spreadsheet. What this is going to be is going to be a one-to-one based on what you sent in. If you send us in a response file today, after we evaluate, we will post out an 1890-93 version of that file. And, in the documentation that we sent you, you'll see the actual layout. And in that layout, you're going to, its beginning field is a duplicate of your file that you sent in, and tagged onto the end are going to be the different columns of the results, similar to the results that you saw in the previous report. And what you can do with this spreadsheet is to download that spreadsheet. You can sort it by bypass columns, so then you'll know all the students that were bypassed, and you can see under the columns what due to pending information or term slot error. So you can break that out and then look at the data for each of those transactions. Nice little formatted dump, then you can take the SSN from that spreadsheet, go on to HES Web and see the paper report. Here's our quick overview of that process. What we'll definitely find is this report is going to help you know what got sent in, did it get loaded, and why transaction is coming back. If you have any questions on reporting or any of this, you can talk to myself or Todd Crummy or Peggy Preston. The other thing is the new schools that are new to the academic year 2018 fall, in order to be set up to load your response files, you first have to go through a constituent testing. We have to out the HE 8848 for the 2018 academic year. All schools have been set up, so if you go out there today and look, you pull down the students that we are looking for the credit information. You can have the access right now. You can send back your credit information at any time. For schools that are new, reach out to us, and we will you through and go through our constituent testing. You have been set up to load your flat files to test, and then once they get loaded, we will process them and we will get back to you. We're going to send you similar reports that I just went through and confirm those results. And once those confirmed, we know that you have the file locked down and it can successfully process, then we will turn on access to upload in production.
Okay, at this point, if you have any questions, if you could chat them to us, we'll be taking some questions. Thanks for joining us today. Let's just see if we get any questions. Yeah. Okay, can we just clarify, they just want us to review screen 12. If we just go back to 12. Oops.
Sorry. The question is the arrow on the slide. What screen 12 was, we can bring that up. Yep. the trending. If you go to the previous screen was showing that, oh, I see exactly what you're saying. You are correct. Sorry. Yes, the arrow should be an incomplete info term pending.
Okay, so it would be field 17 as opposed
yes.
to 16. The arrow on the wrong spot.
Yes, in the previous one, the field was incomplete term, info pending was a yes, and this example was the returning now completed by summer term. So yes, you are correct. Thank you for noting that.
So jumping in a little bit, we have a school asking about a certification webinar for ETA. That's a school that already has been processing for the year, but do we have any plans for a certification webinar coming up in the future?
We will do, this is Barbara just talking about, we will plan to do a certification workshop probably sometime in August or early September.
Okay. Our school had some questions about specific certifications. You certainly reach out to us directly and we'll help you with the certification questions that you have now. So another question, in a previous webinar was mentioned if we knew a transfer student did not meet the academic qualifications and we did not need to fill in every prior term. Is this correct? And if so, how do we do this?
You're talking in the scenario where you know the student attended college back in 2007 and know that they don't meet the credit requirement. What you can do is just fill out term slot 1 with 2007 term, and you could 0 credits because our process will evaluate that student was attending college back then and they will not meet the requirements. You don't have to go through and list everything. That is correct.
Okay, so just to clarify, because this is the next question is similar, if you know your student's not eligible, you can just put a term slot in from a prior date that would break or that they started too early, as opposed to a specific flag, which we do not have at this time.
Correct.
Okay, if it's applied for spring semester and not the fall, do I add the credits from the fall in order to see if the student meets the 30 yearly credit?
No, if the student has not attended in the fall,
well, for the ETA, they have to have a full year application in. So we don't have a spring only set up for this. The question is what if they were not in the fall, do they meet the 30 credits? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, but the applications are for full year, so there could not be a spring only application. Not to input the leading 0, which should we not state the 2 digits again? So which field do you need 3 digits?
Where we find that, and this is only under the spreadsheet format, the ETA 65. So the numeric fields for any of the credit fields, the SSN is a numeric field that can have a leading 0.
Record layout should indicate how many fields, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
I think it's you dead.
Okay, so next one is the HE 8848 file that was sent today. This is a returning school.
Okay.
They're not test files, they're live files,
yes,
correct?
They are live files. And for the schools that are new to this process, you'll leverage your live file, and we're going to use, those are going to be some of the students that you want to take a couple of those to utilize in your test system. You can send us in a file with those students, or you can send us a file with mocked up data as well. We're looking in the testing for constituent testing. We're looking to make sure the file is in the right format. You can upload correctly, and it will process through our system. Is what you may want to do, though, is to take some of those students off your live file, and we'll go through, and you'll see how that data is going to get evaluated. And once that is done and it looks successful, then you can just take that file and load it up into production. So it will help you move forward quickly.
Okay, so safe to say any returning schools that had processed last year, the files that went out today are all live files for 2018?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
One thing with the credit field, just I want to mention, again, the credit fields are a numeric field. For example, for the credits on the term slots, it's a 3-digit numeric field. You do enter in decimal points. In any of the other fields, you do not enter decimal points. If you were to enter decimal points, your whole file is going to be rejected and sent back to you.
A way to report transfer credits if the school is unable to obtain the information on which term the credits were earned at the former institution. They only get a lump sum amount versus a by term. Is there any way around that?
No, there is not a way around it. You will have to get a transcript from the previous college and determine when they were academic year and term. They need it out.
Okay. I know that a lot of campuses look at NSLDS records just to verify previous attendance, just to determine where they had gone prior to. How to export files and send the import files, FTP site or via HESC?
Use the same way you send in your tax files. If you use FTP, then that's what we will be sending the same, as well as if you utilize the web file transfer system, you will receive them.
So for schools that go back to the previous institutions, the question is, if the school doesn't have any credits to report because the student did not supply a transcript, but they found NSLDS that they had attended another school, the school would have to go back to that school or to the student to transcript before they can certify the credits, correct?
Correct.
Okay, if the name only shows for the spring semester, not the fall, do I get the credits? So in this scenario, it should shown up on the fall because it has to go in sequential order, correct? That's correct. Okay. So you want to give us a call directly on this person that's asking the question about the spring only. That should not be you. If they're new to the program, should contacting you directly, Nora?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Me, then I can work with you to go through the constituent testing and just confirm that you are set up correctly within our file transfer system.
For them to email you based on this kind of information, and then you can develop a conversation. So the question is there any chance that the credit verification can be done via the HESC web, similar to the certification process?
Not at this time.
Okay. How do you in detail which column the mistake is when you read the 9095 file? You want to go down to
Okay. In the 9095, if you actually have, and there's stuff in our helpful hints document as well, missing required fields. My question would be is to go and look at that chart that's actually at the beginning of this presentation, as well as in the helpful hints will list the required fields that are needed. So like sometimes it would be as obvious. I've seen where schools have related 5-year program, opportunity program with spaces. The required field is a Y or an N. Again, another one that was very common is the app term or the code. If you see the, that you sent in spaces. If you sent in spaces, you'll see spaces next to that field, and you'll just need to add that. Again, information is any of those incomplete term pending or transfer info pending. If those are a Y, that's another reason why it gets sent back. Now, if missing are term slot errors, see, are term slots in sequential order? Look to see if you have anything posted for a future term, like 2018-2 for this application year would be a term slot error. You have somewhere on there where you might have no spaces in an academic year and you have a term there. So if you had spaces in academic year and a foreign term code, that's going to say you only sent me partial information and sent it back. And if you come up and you cannot determine it, if you just email me, I would definitely help you out on determining what may be wrong with that transaction.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions we have for today. I want to thank everyone for joining our webinar today. I hope it was helpful for you. Contact information if you have any questions. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.